Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management. You wrapped up with your first quarter. You're getting into the summer. You're looking at savings. What have we done good? What have we done bad? How can we save money? Copiers Plus can help you out with your print management and document management. I know you were looking over the first quarter of OG Media. I know that's what you were doing.
Clearly.
How you feeling? You don't do well with late nights, man. I was worried about you this morning.
I'm slow.
Yeah, I can tell.
I am slow.
Good thing today's podcast is mostly pre-recorded. So you got what you wanted at Pearl Jam.
Oh my gosh.
Night.
The second song. It was the second song.
You got your elderly woman.
I was so happy.
Yeah.
They played the right mix of songs that I've never heard that you could tell that they're not tired of playing yet.
Right.
With the hits.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, these guys they can still go.
Yeah, no.
It was definitely, I didn't realize Eddie Vedder was 60.
Yeah.
First of all,
we're all old now.
I get that I'm 50, but I was like, oh, Eddie Vedder's like 50.
No, he's
and
not.
Brendan, who went with me, was like, nah, he's 60. And I was like, oh my.
I saw some footage from the shows from Sunday and last night, and I had not seen Eddie Vedder in a hot minute, and I was like, dang.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't see him at all. I was in the end zone.
Yeah.
And the show was fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
but it was not like this amazing visual presentation.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you're not
like,
there for the visuals.
No, I know, but I literally, if you would have asked me like what he was wearing,
You couldn't tell?
I could.
Did they not have him?
One of my buddies from high school, shout out to Tim Gratina, came into town. He lives up in Pennsylvania now, I believe. Came into town, went to both shows. He posted elderly woman behind a counter in a small town. And I was like, holy shit, how did you get those seats? Because he was like right next to the stage. And I thought it was great. But it was kind of like being at a podcast recording where you didn't get to see the people, you just heard it.
No, that's fine. As long as it sounds good, it doesn't matter.
They sounded amazing.
Okay, that's good.
But you could not from that end of the arena.
So they didn't have him on a screen or anything. Like
Yeah,
they wouldn't put Eddie on a screen.
They had
wouldn't
a sheet up there. Like the first two songs he did,
Mm-hmm.
they did like a cold open.
Okay.
And including I'd Rather Starve Than Eat Your Bread was the first song.
Hunger Strike.
Yes.
That was the first song out of the gate?
Pretty sure.
Oh, dang. Because I waited up for Caleb to get home last night, and he just went straight to bed. So I haven't really talked to him about the show yet.
Mm-hmm.
Hunger Strike would be something he would tell me that, oh, yeah, man, they played Hunger Strike. Because like this morning he was kind of groggy. I was like, did they do Even Flow?
Yeah.
Alive?
The screen.
Yeah.
They had the screen. It looked like a sheet.
Yeah.
Right. And the first song, no graphic. It was just, they were playing a song.
Mm-hmm.
And then second song was Elderly Woman. And then from there, like I said, they played a nice mix of like, oh, okay. Like, and I'm sure there are people there who are like diehard Pearl Jam fans who were like, oh, I know this one. I know that one. But there was probably like a 2 or 3 song stretch where I was like, it's time to get a beer.
Let's see. This is the set list from last night, according to Setlist FM. Okay. Setting Sun, Corduroy, which, Why Go, Last Exit. Yeah, Elderly Woman was the 5th song. Fifth song. I don't know. You're like, it was the second song. No, according to the playlist, it was the 5th song. Do the Evolution. Even Flow. What do we got? Untitled. No, they didn't do Hunger Strike last night.
I have the video of it.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I don't know, man. How many beers did you have last night?
Somebody
did
who
they
works.
Did they just reference?
I mean, I could find it for you if you really want me to.
Yeah. Now I'm curious because they did Carolina in my mind.
I left after Black.
Okay.
James came and picked me up at 11 o'clock. So I was walking out. I walked downstairs.
Well, they didn't do Black until the encore. So
okay, well, they played Black.
You should have heard how fucked up were you last night?
Well, I was about to tell you, somebody on the club level who you know was working the bar.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, tell Joe Ovies, ... And I don't remember any of that. He poured us like a triple shot.
Oh, you're done. You're done. All right. This is making so much more
Fireball.
sense now.
It was like a triple shot.
This is making so much more sense. So you don't remember them doing Carolina in my mind, the James Taylor cover?
No.
Okay.
No. All right, let's see.
So you missed Better Man and Alive?
Hold on.
In the encore? Put it up against the speaker or against the microphone so I know. No, that's corduroy.
Oh.
I would rather starve than eat your. Sorry, I misunderstood. That is not Hunger Strike. That is corduroy.
Okay.
I misunderstood. My bad. That's on me.
So they did play that song.
So they played corduroy. Yeah, they played corduroy. For some reason in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't mind stealing bread.
No. That was the Mother of Love Bone or whatever.
That's where we Temple of the Dog.
Temple
of tribute to. Which was in tribute to
Mother Love Bone.
Mother Love Bone, the lead singer who had passed away, who had OD'd. So anyway, that's me. That's on mine. That's my bad.
I cannot imagine having the opportunity 5 days a week to watch what is happening with Bill Belichick.
All right, so we go from the actual show that Joe Giglio was able to watch, a show that delivered.
Absolutely.
To Bill Belichick and the show coming out of Chapel Hill. I think we could all recognize, and we talked about this with Pablo Torre on Monday, that the Michael Strahan interview was the first flare, the first like, oh, okay, we're going to see the reboot coming out of Chapel Hill. We're going to see Bill Belichick 2.0. What I was not expecting, and we got this yesterday, was him doing interviews with ESPN and with two local outlets. So Luke DeCock, News and Observer, he was able to talk to Bill Belichick, wrote a column off of that. We'll bring you that video in a second. I know Murph was able to talk to him as well. The conversations in and of themselves were what you would expect out of Bill Belichick.
Sure.
If we're talking about a software upgrade for Bill Belichick, if this is the reboot, this is the relaunch, Bill Belichick 2.0 in Chapel Hill, it reminds me a lot of, to go full Colin Cowherd here, it reminds me a lot of ... You know when Apple would come out with the S phone? Like you get the 4. Oh man, like this phone is like all new, it's got a great shape, and then they come out with the S the following year. Wasn't that much of an upgrade? It's still the same phone with some little bells and whistles here and there. That's Bill Belichick 2.0. He wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire with his personality. He was asked very similar questions by everybody in Amelia Island. You know, what do you expect? Like, what is success to you in year one? You know what his answer was?
Stacking days. Yes. Stack the days.
What does that mean exactly?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess we stack days. I hope we have a good podcast.
Yeah.
And then we can stack that good podcast with another podcast.
Yeah. One day at a time.
One day at a time. But I think Luke nailed it in his column and and the general conversation around Bill Belichick, in that when we're talking about, when we get away from all the other stuff, the tabloid stuff, Bill Belichick, the football coach at North Carolina, what it's going to look like, he's finding out just like us. And Luke put this on Blue Sky. He said he had a chance to talk to Bill briefly. Building a roster, meeting his ACC peers, managing numbers and recruiting. It's hard to shake the sense that he's not entirely sure what kind of team he has yet.
It's definitely in the target zone, but we have so much before then that we need to, or so many opportunities before the TCU game that we need to take advantage of. And so we have a lot of preparation time, practice time, training time, and time as coaches to, get things in the best possible place. So we know where we're headed, but it's a long path to get there, and each step of the way will be very important. So we want to take advantage of every opportunity to be as well prepared as we possibly can for not only opening day, but the entire regular season. And so that's if you just prepare for one game, then you may not be able to hit some of the targets later on. So it's a combination.
So that was Belichick.
Is that a bird sanctuary in
It's
Amelia Island?
It's Amelia Island, man. It's all vibes. You got the sea salt scrub, you got the birds, you got the golf course. It's a retreat.
Nice.
Can't ask for better ASMR, right?
Well, I see he still hasn't found a North Carolina shirt.
Are we making too big of a deal out of this?
That he doesn't own anything that says UNC on it?
He does, apparently. He just doesn't wear it on television.
Oh.
It's kind of weird, because I texted Luke. I'm like, is he wearing any UNC gear? He's like, he was in a UNC hoodie yesterday. I'm like, well, then why wasn't he in a UNC hoodie he's like, well, all business, right? But here's my question. There's no UNC color pattern to that button down that I saw. So there's that. And then number two, you can't call David Tepper's guy? Because David Tepper is the king.
Business cash.
He is the king of putting a bespoke button-down long sleeve with a Panthers logo on it. You can't call Tepper up, be like, hey man, look, I don't want the job. What I want is your tailor. Who's your guy that puts those sweet-looking Panthers logos on your very expensive button-downs? Can I get that guy?
Can I get one?
Alexander Julian can't slap a logo on there.
Trust me, I've had multiple clothiers with UNC licenses say to me, if you can give it to him, I'll give it to you. Okay.
Because every other coach goes on television to rep their school.
Yeah.
Except Bill Belichick. Now, with Luke, as with Murph, the conditions of the interview were that you were going to talk about football and only football.
Yeah.
No questions about Jordon Hudson.
It was interesting. Yeah, that's fine. The one transcript that I read from ESPN, they were asking him about Duke again. And I'm like, wow.
That's the other thing. Thank you.
You guys really don't know about this, do you?
That's the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's the other thing that it's a classic. Am I making too big of a deal out of this, right? I get that Duke and Carolina are a rivalry. I'm not dismissing the bell and everything that goes along with it.
You can dismiss the bell.
I mean, who can forget the kicker jumping into the inflatable at Wallace Way?
Dan Orner.
Thank you. So who could forget those moments, right? But when it comes to football, the thing that moves the needle, the thing that matters in triangle good, is whether or not State and Carolina get over on each other. When Mac Brown was at Carolina, while he understood I want to leave State in the dust, he didn't quite understand that this game still matters when you actually have to play it, which is why Dave Dorn usually got over on Mac Brown, right? And I feel like those around him, around Bill Belichick, and the media around Bill Belichick are doing him a disservice. I need to know who's around Bill to tell him, hey, dude, at some point, you're going to have to mix in, we got to make sure we beat State too. Because if that mindset persists, you know who's loving this?
Yes.
You know who is energized by this? You know who's it's the equivalent of giving Giglio a fireball shot?
Yeah.
Dave Dorn.
Not just a shot. It was like a triple shot.
A triple shot of
like a gallon.
A triple shot of fireball. Dave Dorn is going, yes.
In my vein.
Yes. Keep ignoring us. I'm just in the shadows, which is exactly where Dorn wants to be at all times.
Stanford will lose to Cal, and then we'll play you.
I don't care if my game is buried on Peacock. Okay. Good.
Oh, man.
I don't want anybody to watch us except for that one game against Carolina. We're going to bring it.
What's your relationship like with Manny Diaz? Are you looking forward to the rivalry?
That was the ESPN transcript, yeah. And while Luke was told, hey man, we ain't talking about Jordon Hudson. Luke was told we ain't talking about Jordon Hudson.
Sure.
Pretty sure Murph was also told we ain't talking about Jordon Hudson.
Yeah.
ESPN was not told about that. So here's the exchange.
All right. So I know that you're aware that your relationship with Jordon Hudson has been a headline over the last few months. And all of the specifics aside, because a lot has come out in the last couple of days, how do you think that impacts your ability to coach this football team, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's, really off to the side. It's a personal relationship, and she doesn't have anything to do with UNC football. I'm excited to be back in the coaches' meetings and getting ready for June, and then August when we get to training camp. So June will be a big recruiting month for us, and then August we'll start get ready for the season.
And I know that you're not on social media and you don't read as much as everybody else has seen, but when it comes to having conversations with your players, have you been able to talk about any of those things and the specifics of what's going on off the field?
Yeah, no, I talk to the players, and when we meet with them, when they come in to visit and so forth. Sure.
And how have those conversations gone?
Yeah, great. Well, again, we want to make the players the best that they can be, provide them the best opportunity on and off the field. And that's what we're about at UNC. And that's what we do the best for every single player we have.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bill Belichick 2S is still doing Bill Belichick. We're on to TCU.
But he's out there. He's answering questions.
Yeah.
He's talking.
That's all you can ask. You're not going to get much
what else
more
you
than
want.
that. No.
You know what I mean?
That's the thing.
Especially at this time of the year. Good for him.
No, and
we can't be critical of the idea that you can just hide, which I think they thought, right? Because when you hide, you provide a vacuum, and the vacuum's going to be filled. So you're better off even having these milquetoast conversations than you are not, especially if there's something on the periphery that has become as large as his relationship with Jordon Hudson. So this is a good thing for Carolina. This is a good thing, man. I've seen some strange takes on the internet. I'll talk to you about off the air, but
Okay.
it's a good thing in the media too, because you give people something else to talk about. And it's not just this rampant, speculation and judgments and all these other things.
One quick thing about the Jordon Hudson thing. I did think I'm not the only person who picked up on this, but he said it's a personal relationship. Remember, coming out of the CBS interview, the statement read a personal and professional relationship. So a keen ear on having him say it's a personal relationship that has nothing to do with football. Not that I believe that Jordon Hudson doesn't have anything to do with Bill Belichick's PR run up with the book and everything else. But I did think that was an interesting wrinkle to all this. But back to your point about being available and try to make this a football thing. I screamed that last week. Thankfully, somebody listened.
Yeah.
Thankfully, somebody listened. Either you don't release any statements whatsoever and just power through with the silence until the football season, or you get out there and you remind people, which is, I think, what Bill Belichick has done yesterday, and he'll do again on Friday with Michael Strahan. Oh, you're not that interesting. Like when we actually have to talk to you about football without the Jordon Hudson stuff, you're actually not that interesting. You're a pretty boring interview. You're not really giving anything. One last point with the stacking days thing, and this is probably a prompt for the OG Sports Phone if you think about it. And we have plenty of time in the summer to discuss it. But when he kept being asked, what are your expectations for success, or what does success look like this upcoming football season? And he gave a real non-answer, real football-y, I just hope we get better every day. That is not why you're getting $30 million a year, or $30 million guaranteed. That's not why you're getting $10 million a year. It's not to get better every day. So what is success? Is it 8 wins with that schedule? Is it 9 wins? I know you're making a face, but I think at this point, and we can discuss it in the summer, what is that? What does that look like? Because you don't go through all of this to get Bill Belichick to go 7-5 and feel like you stacked and improved and get ready for the next season. Because you also don't know how much. If you thought there was a ticking timer on Mac Brown, what do you think the ticking timer is on? Like Mac Brown was people listening to this podcast on 1.2x. Bill Belichick is listening to the podcast at 2x, maybe even 3 if you're a true sicko. So those are the things that stacking every day don't necessarily apply to college, as opposed to if you were doing this in the NFL with a 4-year plan, actual contracts, and everything that goes with an NFL roster. College roster does not afford you to just, hey, man, we're building for next year. I don't know if it works that way.
Yeah, I think that's just the way it's a process versus results.
Fair enough.
Right? So that's just the way that he thinks. All right, once we one good day, we stack the days. At the end of it, you have a bunch of good days, then you have a good team. That's just the way he talks.
So Brian delivered a rough sketch on what we could replace the Today and Belichick with.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks.
I'm not talking about this.
What the hell? This is not what we signed up for.
I think we got to roll the Bomani clip back in there at the end.
Someone at some point, and maybe it's at the kickoff, has to get the guy to say we're on to TCU. Somebody has to get it. Please. I think Luke tried.
He tried. Maybe we're the ones who will do it.
Housekeeping.
Big thanks to Inovana. Check them out online at inovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Inovana.
We've got the podcast festival coming up at the Rialto in August for week 0. Go to therialto.com. Speaking of the Rialto, they're going to have game 5 on the big screen between the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals. I'll probably be there. Why not? Before I head into the studio for the After Dark. But go to therialto.com, get your podcast festival tickets today. You can just buy an advance ticket. You can buy an advance ticket with a shirt that comes along with it, or go to September RDU. That is Dimitri's Instagram page. And you can see the twofer that will include the Scalar brothers later in the year. So you get the podcast festival featuring us, Big Screen Sports, and Split Zone Duo, and the Scalar brothers later in the year. So head on over to therialto.com. Also check out breakingtea.com/OG. You can get your Ovies and Giglio shirts and hoodies there, including the Cougar podcast shirt, Joe's favorite. Did you see any drunk wolves last night?
No, kind of part of the condition of my upgrade was I had to stay on the second level. I couldn't meander. Otherwise, I couldn't get back to the second level. I was slightly isolated from the world.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yes.
Because I've been in that situation before.
Yes.
Saying, once you're here, if you want
to leave, that's fine.
It's like, hey,
you ain't getting back.
Like I said yesterday, you were hating outside the club, but now you're in the club. I understand you can't get back in.
Right.
Okay. You got it? Got it. Perfect. We got OG Light in cans hitting stores soon. The place that I know you'll definitely be able to get it is at Breeze Through outside the Lenovo Center. I think there's a target date for May 20th. I can tell my dad doesn't listen to the podcast because he keeps texting me and he keeps calling you.
He texted me. I told him 20th, but I think we could probably. Are we going to sell access? Do we have access? Are we going to have an access?
I don't know what state law is involved in that. I don't know if we can do that.
Like we might be.
Yeah.
Be skirting a few on that one if we had access.
So tell you what. Just go to Breeze Through. Just go to Breeze Through and buy some OG Light, the podcast, the champagne of podcast beers. It is beer flavored beer.
How about I only do the access on the days where I wear the Roback New Jersey shirt. How about that?
Perfect. Another place you'll be able to get it is at Shady's in Garner. They're going to buy a few cases. So drop on by Shady's in Garner. That's where we had our OG birthday bash. We'll do it again next year for year 3. In the meantime, while you're waiting for those, contact the base of operation, Whitaker and Hamer.
Yes.
WH.lawyer, attorneys and counselors at law. I believe Longleaf will also be carrying a few cases
Our friends.
OG Light. So hit up the crew over at Longleaf Swine, longleafswine.com. The brunch, undefeated. They got great, don't get me wrong. Lunch is great, dinner's great, but the brunch, the specials are fantastic. So drop on by this weekend if you don't have any plans. Hopefully, with Pearl Jam leaving town, we can also leave the Seattle weather they apparently brought with them. That would be nice. I mean, come on, man. It's like rainy and foggy. Tell me Pearl Jam's in town without telling me Pearl Jam's in town. So go to longleafswine.com to find out more. And when you get your cans of OG Light and you want to crack a bad boy open, a crispy boy on the back deck, on the patio, you don't want it ruined by mosquitoes.
No.
So go to bugsbite.com and you can bundle and save with Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Obviously, the outside of your home is important. You want to enjoy it. You want to keep those mosquitoes down to a minimum. But Pest Authority is going to take care of the inside of your house as well. And you can bundle and save right now at bugsbite.com. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group microphone in studio, Steve Schwartz, a longtime registered basketball official here in North Carolina for high school. 36 years, Steve?
36 years registered for the state to do basketball.
But for the P1s of this podcast, they might know Steve as the life coach.
I have been referenced before on the podcast.
Very important role in our careers.
Very fondly. Fondly. My
Yes.
phone rings off the hook when Giglio does that. You know, when he references me, I get tagged a lot. I don't know what that means, but I get tagged a lot.
Yeah, and our mug is somewhere, probably in the trash. Now,
before we start, may
Yes.
I start with a presentation?
You love a presentation.
I see the in-person slides here. I love it.
I remember the first meeting with Steve, the life coach. You had a whole presentation. It was fantastic.
What's my dog's name? Now I just remember it was a brown lab, chocolate lab.
Anyway,
Okay.
what was the presentation?
I have a presentation that I wish to make.
Yes.
This is your beautiful studios here. I don't know if everyone knows that you rent space in Tom Tillis's basement. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. Thank you for the town car bringing me over. It was very kind of you. And as we were passing through the kitchen, the senator was making his charcuterie board for the broadcast. I think that's healthy negotiating. But I have for you because
a tchotchke. Yes.
Oh, how did you? That's amazing.
You
That is
asked for it.
amazing.
You asked for it. Now, I just want you to know that I didn't have any in the house, and so I found one on eBay. I paid $1,750 for this. I'm going to need a receipt as an in-kind for my
I'm going to frame
taxes.
this.
I'm giving this to you under one condition.
Yes.
This has to be in a prominent
Oh, yeah.
spot in your studio
I said you want
that
it
has
between-
direct access to a camera, and if it ever is obscured, I get to take
That's
it
fine.
back.
That's
All
fine.
right.
I'm going to frame this bad boy. For those
Okay.
who don't know, if you're watching on YouTube, this is a magnet, a Reynolds and Company magnet from the old, back when 1061 was a real radio station.
Thank you.
Back in
Yes,
the
we
day.
felt that. We felt that same way.
Yeah, mornings on WRDU. I love that. This is going to this will be featured prominently. I will frame this thing. I will spare no expense. For
You
the framing.
probably should have brought that to the first meeting. I thought you were the sidekick. I didn't know it was Reynolds.
Some
and
days I
Company.
was. Yeah, it was.
Well,
there-
Sometimes I'm the sidekick. Sometimes you're the
that
sidekick.
that was the original name of the show,
Mhm.
and that went away after about 6 months. There's a story behind that if you ever want to hear it. But the original name of the show on WRD was Reynolds and Company, and then 6 months in, we changed the name of the show. I made them change the name
Okay.
of the show.
Whatever
And it
happened
was
to
like a Zoo Morning Crew show.
Well, that's a little bit of an
Steve?
insult.
Steve.
It was the original.
Steve.
It was an OG Zoo
Steve,
Morning Crew.
You played the black box recording of a flight crash.
That's correct.
That's
But it,
to,
but
a
in-
to the guy who survived it.
But in context, it was a guy from the Denver Nuggets who wrote a book, and he wanted to be interviewed. And I actually read the book.
Yeah.
When was the last time you guys had someone on who wrote a book that you read?
I didn't even read the presentation you sent to me.
Yes, that's
via
correct.
email.
You didn't prepare for this conversation.
Absolutely not. We wing it.
Last year, Eric Kramer, I interviewed him. I read his book.
Okay.
I thought of you the whole time.
Okay. Then I finally taught you something.
You did. You
taught me-
always did.
You taught me something too.
I
in
don't
the-
know anything about radio.
You
You're the
taught me
one who
something
knows.
too in the radio business, which we'll get to. We'll close out. That's called a tease in
Okay.
the business. I got something that I want to bounce off Steve, the life coach, at the
Okay.
end of this conversation. But no, the
As to
reason
why you're here.
the reason why you're here, and it actually ties back to a conversation we had in December of 22. You were tasked by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association as a representative for officials, not just basketball officials, but just officials in general, to kind of get a lay of the land. Where are things? And you had a high participation rate. And one thing I've noticed about high school officials, basketball, football, it doesn't matter. They feel very strongly about being there, supporting the schools. You do this as a passion project.
Correct.
You don't do this for the money. You don't do it for the glory. You love it because you love the game and you like officiating. So you had a high participation rate with this. And the results, I remember back in 22, they were not great with the current working conditions for officiating. And that's kind of like the last we left it back in 22. A lot has happened or not a lot has happened
Right.
since that conversation. So where are we?
Yeah,
right
I
now?
mean, the short story is not a lot has happened. 3 years ago this month, we were recording this in May of 2025. I got an email from Q Tucker,
Mhm.
who's the commissioner, asking if I would, at the board's direction, the board of directors said, let's do survey officials. So I cobbled together a group of people who have a vested interest, and we had a 3-month deadline, and we put a survey together and surveyed the 7,500 officials in the state of North Carolina.
Mhm.
31, just north of 3,100 officials took the survey. I don't know if you guys know research, but 5 or 6% participation says your research findings are accurate. You
Yeah.
can extrapolate that to the larger group. We had a 42% participation rate, which said that officials had a lot to say. And we wanted to hear from them. All sports, you just needed to be a registered North Carolina High School Athletic Association official in any sport, assess the lay of the land.
Mhm.
And you try to assume as the results are coming in what you're going to see. And I had access to that because I had the SurveyMonkey account. So I would look at it every day while the survey was active for its 2 weeks. The results were brutal.
Mhm.
Brutal.
Mhm.
And, data tells a story. And so we put our story together, and I'll give you some of the statistics in a minute. In October of 2022, we presented those results with our recommendations to the subcommittee on officiating, which then reports back to the full board. And that happened in December. I participated in that. Here are some things that we found out that scared the crap out of us.
Mhm.
71% of officials in the state are over the age of 45. 51% are over the age of 55. Yikes. what happens is people age out and they retire. There's no replenishing them.
Yeah.
53%, we asked, have you considered in the last 2 years leaving officiating for the NCHSAA? 53% said yes. We asked why. They were allowed to choose 2 reasons. We took COVID. It was a COVID era. We took COVID off the plate because we knew that would end. And it was sportsmanship is insane and we don't like what we're getting paid. And that was the thread story of all of our recommendations, that there were 3 general areas that we reported back. The board of directors of pay, sportsmanship, and representation. We're stakeholders. We're critical stakeholders because if you don't have officials, you have no sports. And we see the train coming down the track at a high rate of speed. And we gave 11 recommendations to the board to fix all 3 areas. They did one thing.
What was the one thing?
The one thing was the pay. They increased our pay in that December 2022 meeting. From my vantage point as an official, there's a reason they approved it, and then the real reason that they approved it.
Okay.
The reason they approved it is because we deserved it.
Of course.
Pay in neighboring states was higher than ours. We hadn't received a pay increase across all sports, not just basketball, across all sports for a number of years. They made a commitment that they would review pay every 2 years. I'll come back to that in a moment. The real reason I felt it was approved was because when I was granted the opportunity to present in front of the board, something I was told prior to doing, they said to me, you should be honored that they're letting you do this. They don't ever let outsiders in.
Okay.
Which was shocking to me because as an official of 36 years, I'm an outsider.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
The real reason was because I had caught wind from back channel sources that 800 basketball officials were going to walk out. And I decided to use what I had heard in front of them, in front of the media, because it was an open meeting. Nick Stevens was there from OT. And I knew if I used that statistic, which was true, that's what I heard, I'd scare the crap out of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And they'd have to move.
Well, because to your point, you don't have 800 officials. You can't play games without officials.
Correct.
What do you do? You pull parents from the stands? We tried, just going back into our radio bit days, Steve brought us to, I didn't realize we had a future hooper in attendance that day when we were at Millbrook. And we tried to officiate, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean, you can make that argument now, but I was completely lost during that time. So what are you supposed to do? Pull a parent from the stands to officiate?
Right. Well, I was, when you did that at Millbrook, both of you guys did an intramural scrimmage at Millbrook, I was most concerned watching you just before we took the court. I had asked Joe if he had carved up, and you had told me you had a plate of Alfredo.
Yeah.
I remember that distinctly. I went and found the AED and the paddles just in case.
That's what you got to do. If I want to be exerting that energy, got power.
They approved that. I said to them, if this happens, the negative press that will come nationwide on the state of North Carolina and the NCHSAA is going to be awful. And I offered this to prevent that from happening. They approved the pay raise, nothing else. And so for the next year, I kept in touch with Q Tucker.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know Q. Q needs to be pushed a lot. And Q is risk averse and she's change averse. And I got nothing else done after a year and just kind of gave up. This became not a priority for her. And we had given the organization and Q specifically the roadmap on how to fix us as stakeholders, that we're full partners, getting paid what we deserve, and fix the biggest problem, sportsmanship. If we can fix that, we can recruit young people who don't want to do this for such little pay because they don't want to get yelled at. There's no abuse surcharge.
Yeah.
And older officials, of which 51% over the age of 55, might hang out a little longer, and we don't lose through attrition such large numbers that high school sports don't get canceled.
Well, man, you're trying to throw the starfish back into the ocean, though, with sportsmanship. He's seeing that firsthand this year with junior hockey. I've seen it in coaching rec league basketball. I'm not going to lie to you. I've gotten technical fouls before.
I almost got tossed out by a referee once. So,
but it's man, it's a chicken or the egg, isn't it?
Maybe you're right, Joe. You could, let's say you are right. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try,
Yeah.
right? And what I have found
throw the starfish.
I have found in the last 3 years is that Q never made this a priority for our.
Did she get swallowed up in
that's
the Republican Party trying to
right
defund the NCHSAA?
There's
is that what do you think that's what happened?
Yeah, there's an elephant in the room here, the GOP elephant that decided to get into this thing. So how much of that is at play here?
I think it plays a major role to me.
And they got involved, just for anyone who doesn't follow high school stuff, because the NCHSAA seemingly is run financially well. And the Republican Party, or the certain leaders of the Republican Party, looked at that and said, well, why do they have this surplus of money?
Yeah.
And that's just me connecting some dots from 4 million feet away, not even 10,000.
To me, I refer to that, and in the small circles of very engaged officials of all sports that I rotate in, we refer to that as the original sin.
Mm-hmm.
The original sin was allowing the legislature, Q allowing the legislature, and the board allowing the legislature to take over. For me, I'm like, I've been curious for years. What did she do or not do? Where's the accountability in that move happening? What did she do that allowed them such a massive takeover? Or what did she avoid doing? I want to know the answer. I would like to know the answer to that question. When several years, about a year prior to that happening, it was one Sunday morning, it was about 8:30. I'm in the house, sipping my coffee, looking at the N&O, and I see, wow, this thing is really out of the barn.
Yeah.
And I wrote a text to our regional supervisor, great guy, Greg Fogelman, a forward-thinking regional supervisor. And I said, we as an association have got to take a public stand against the legislature taking over high school sports in the state, because nothing ever good comes when any politician wants to get involved. The original sin. We put together a press release opposing it. We got it approved by the NCHSAA later that Sunday. It was provided to the other associations who followed suit, and then we know what happened. Now, what I want to say about this for context: Davis Whitfield and Charlie Adams are Q's predecessors in the chair as commissioner, right? If this had happened in the Charlie Adams era, I don't know if you guys know Charlie. I never met Charlie, but I knew Davis Whitfield.
I know who Charlie Adams is. Yeah.
So if this had happened in the Charlie Adams period, Charlie would have gotten an apartment downtown. Charlie would have woken up every morning, and he would have made 2 stops.
Yeah.
The first stop would have been at Krispy Kreme on Person Street, where he got a couple of dozen glazed fresh donuts, and he would have gone over to the legislative building, and he would have good old boy to everyone.
Yeah.
Here's donuts, and he would have told them about how great their high school was in their county or counties, wherever they represent. And Charlie would have put himself in a position to save the NCHSAA. That's the job of the commissioners, to grow the organization and to protect it. That's what Charlie would have done. And when the legislation came around, I'm guessing, but I think that's what he would have done, is he would have had some say in the writing of that legislation, so it would not have happened.
Okay.
Did Q do that? I don't know the answer to the question. All I know is where we are and where's the accountability of them on her watch taking over everything, which leads to the sportsmanship issue that there's an article in the News and Observer now.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. I feel like some of this stuff is coming home to roost here with what you've talked about, and only addressing the pay portion of this and not addressing the real issue, which is the sportsmanship, which is getting out of hand. And to Joe's point, yeah, I've seen it I've seen it at a youth hockey level. You can see it at soccer, but we're talking specifically for your world, the actual high school athletic association stuff. And the News and Observer from yesterday: NC high school sports ejections spike, why the NCHSAA officials are alarmed. The relevant information is through April 22nd, the date of the most recent report. There had been 993 ejections of athletes and coaches from sporting events, but that number is actually higher,
right?
Since we've gotten, as we're recording this on May 8th, just for people to know, when we're airing this was from the previous week. So it's gone up. I mean, we're over 1,000, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Last I heard, it was 1,030.
Okay.
Ejections up 42% in the last 2 years. You got a lot of technicals. Did you ever get ejected, Joe?
I got ejected once.
A pause is a yes.
Once. I somehow got 3 technicals in a row. I didn't swear. That was an interesting one to me. Yeah.
So this is a 40, like you said, a 42% increase, but also a decrease in coaches. Coaches are
Right.
quote unquote behaving better. It's the athletes that have gone up.
I can see that.
And the spectators, right?
Okay.
I think there's good and bad in that number. First, the good officials are doing their jobs.
Yeah.
Right. Most of the ejections are for profanity, which is the genius of our supervisor of officials, a guy by the name of Mark Dreibelbus.
Mm-hmm.
Well respected, has a high expectation of excellence, and there is always, back to us, accountability. Why is that? Because Mark's one of us. When he was at App State, Mark's early years, he called high school ball. He's did 1 million state championships in the state, went on to do some college ball. Mark has always held us to account. And Mark put in years ago, if you hear a profanity, that's an automatic ejection.
Mm-hmm.
Ejection.
It's an automatic ejection.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the teeth of that, I always thought it was a brilliant move. I loved when Mark put that in. I'm in some Facebook groups of officiating. People are like, how do you all control officiating? I'm like, I live in North Carolina. It's an automatic ejection here. Mark deeply cares about us as a group. That's the brilliance of that man in that chair. But we told the NCHSAA that this was a problem 3 years ago, and it was the biggest problem. Where was this as a priority for the commissioner, right? Why didn't Q say this is significant? And I think the legislature had not taken over, going to institute a lot of these 11 changes to see what kind of impact they have. If you go back to the article, if I might, because I highlighted it. Here's the verbiage.
The most boomer thing I've ever seen, Steve.
Print it out.
What?
Print it out. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Was that a knock?
No.
Okay. Here's Q. I wonder if the rise in ejections isn't because the penalty isn't tough enough. It's time to have a discussion with the state board.
You already had this
Time
discussion.
to have a discussion. Dr. Stephen Gainey is the president of the board of directors of the NCHSAA. He's the superintendent of Randolph County School.
Yeah.
I'm more and more concerned that someone's going to get hurt. This is way too many. We need to get this under control. I'm really concerned about where we're going with all of this. Well,
were they
now-
Elon on Twitter? Concerning.
I mean-
concerning.
I'll tell you basketball wise, straight up. Basketball wise, I know some of the officials who work the summer leagues that I have coached in are also high school officials. But and I've had some of them, including one of the guys who did the Millbrook stuff with us, come to our group and say, before the season started, hey, here's what we're going to emphasize, look at all those other things. But the sportsmanship thing has to start at the lowest of levels. First grade, second grade, third grade. And it has to include the parents too. And that's how you throw the starfish back into the ocean one by one. And that needs to be a concerted effort by the NCHSAA. Because to me, that's where it starts. You can't just try to teach them in high school, is what I'm getting at.
Let's go back to the original sin, right? If there's no accountability, if Mr. Dreibelbus comes to a game and a player yells out the F-bomb and an official like me doesn't eject them, I'm suspended.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's accountability.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the original sin, which is the commissioner letting the NCHSAA completely go to the state legislature and the school board. So now they've got to go back and get permission, which takes time. And in the meantime, the last 3 years, this not having been a priority for her, we're behind the 8 ball. We have no representation on the board. The gentleman who represents us is Albert Lassiter, great guy.
Yeah.
Football regional supervisor out of Ashboro.
Football's even more.
We like Albert, right?
As somebody who goes to a lot of high school football games.
Well, I think you had sent me
Football stuff.
You had sent me a clip of a meeting that had taken place back in April.
It was actually last Wednesday.
It was last Wednesday.
That was April, maybe.
No, it wasn't. I need you to set this up for me, because obviously you're intimately more engaged with this than I am, especially when it gets into the weeds of these subcommittees and where they're meeting and everything else. But I think it's important to play this clip because it illustrates, I think, the issue that you're getting at, in that you can say it's concerning. You can present them actual data and facts. Yet when you get to these meetings, when it's time to have a conversation, it ends up almost being hand waved. So what is so please set this clip up. It's about a minute.
Okay. So when I presented to the board, as an official and the person who chaired the ad hoc subcommittee, my job was to demonstrate to them the gravity of how serious the issues are. And
Yeah.
here's where it's going. If you, as a board, don't get a handle on it, nothing happens at the NCHSAA without the board playing a role. I don't know why Q thinks that. She's the commissioner. She certainly has some level of power to fix problems. I think that's leadership. At the board meeting, Albert represents the officiating subcommittee, got up to speak to everyone, and they, to your point of the hand wave, said, everything's okay, and I'll let you play it here, and then I'll come back, I'll make a commentary of it.
Yesterday, Brian asked a question. He said, are things better in the officiating world? All the work and energy and discussions that we had, are things the answer was yes to me, and it's the feedback that I'm getting from our officials. He said, perfect, no. But as Dr. Gaming, President Gaming just stated, if you have a plan and address the issue that you're faced, eventually you'll work to a better organization. And that's what I think we're headed from an officiating standpoint. And a big piece of that is and has been the subcommittee. We don't have to wait till the next board meeting to discuss what's going on in the officiating world. A lot of those issues are already addressed, and as you want to vote on some of the things that we talked about over this past year in just a few minutes, and I'm excited about the game report. It as a regional assigner, it gives me an opportunity to have a better understanding of what's going on at a site, not just negative, but some positive comes in.
So there were 3 parts of that I found interesting, Steve. The first one is, yes, laying out all the things, but are things going in the right direction? He says, to me, yes. Well, that's very subjective. And then he kind of continues on and he says, we addressed one of the issues. I'm assuming that one issue is the pay, as you've addressed, not the other ones.
And one other thing that I'll share in a moment.
Okay. And then at the end, again, that's where the hand waving comes in. Sure, there's some negatives, but there's also some positives. And I'm kind of curious why use this opportunity in front of those people to not really address those issues.
Right.
When that's your opportunity. They don't have a space on the board, right? So why not use that opportunity to be like, hey, look, well, there's some positives. We address some issues. This is still a serious issue. Why does that not happen?
Correct. All well-intentioned, right? But someone who was on the board at the time, a board member by the name of Todd Morgan, said to me a year after, we need to invite you to come back to give us an update from your perspective.
Oh.
And I said to him, he's a principal. I said, it'll never happen, because I was too honest when I presented in December of 2025. Here's the thing that I would say. Great guy. And I think Albert's telling his truth from his small circle.
Fair.
But I'm holding up, this is the report that we submitted to the board and to Q Tucker in the fall of 2022, the thing that only one thing was done in that meeting. Where's Albert's data to prove things are better, right? Prove it to me.
Vibes, man.
One of our 11 recommendations, if you were to read this, and if you, I provided the link to you guys, you want to put it in the notes to the podcast here. Anyone can go look at it. It's still live. One of our 11 recommendations was, let's put these changes in place. Review pay every 2 years, which, by the way, at the 2-year mark,
I'm going to say, are we there now?
We're a year past it.
Okay.
And they never did it. They never did it in the fall of 2024. They didn't do it in the spring of 2025. And they were told, your officials are watching, right? I mean, what signal does that say to officials?
They don't care.
One of our 11 recommendations was, let's put these elements in place over the next several months. I think it's recommendation 9 or 10, and then redo the survey to see if there's a change in the numbers so we can assess if there's growth. Where did Q lose interest in doing this? Where did this not really be a priority for her after charging me, asking me to do this, and then me asking 24 other people to participate in this? Why did she abandon it? Why all those phone calls and all those emails that I sent to her? Why did they go unanswered, or why was I hand waved by her?
Yeah.
And it's like, prove it. And to say to the board, it's all okay, means see you again in 6 months, and the numbers are only worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's unfortunate. I love that you are still fighting the fight, though. Somebody has to.
He was out there too.
I
I saw your last game.
Yeah.
Yep.
That won't be your last game though.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
Listen,
Garner. It was a state
listen,
playoffs.
I will do. When I was asked to do this, it was an honor to be asked. Right, the end of my officiating career was at hand, and this is a legacy project. Right, I'm like, wow, I get to participate in doing something where I can maybe with a couple of dozen other people make the lives of 7,500 officials in the state better.
Yeah,
I'm still fighting that fight for my brothers and sisters because that's the difference between sympathy and empathy, right? I've lived it. I get it. I understand it. And I won't give up the fight. How does it get fixed? To me, if I might, it's leadership. It's all about leadership. Have you guys ever been in a stayed at a job too long?
yeah. And we were told to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
It happens in this business.
It happens, period,
Mhm.
right? I've been in a managerial position in my career where I've stayed too long. My people stop growing and the organization stifles.
Yeah.
Right. You don't have any innovative spirit. You don't have any fresh ideas. Q should be elevated and honored. She has quite an accomplished career. She's in multiple halls of fame. She's dedicated most of her adult life to the NCHSAA, and that counts for something in my book. But
You're calling for a different voice.
yeah, but I do think, if she really loves the organization,
Mhm.
she'll say it's time for fresh eyes and ears. It's time for 2025 solutions to 2025 problems.
Yeah.
And getting fresh people in there who are going to look at it differently and truly treat officials as full partners in the quest for a positive education-based athletic experience. I think if she really cares, she'll say, I'm going to retire and we need those fresh eyes. It's a retainer. She has knowledge and a perspective that I think are very valuable. But to move forward with all that's happened in the last 3 years, the train is coming down the track and it's not going to end well. And they're going to have to cancel programs because more officials are going to age out and we won't be able to recruit for all the reasons I presented. Officials need a seat at the table to help guide their future if the NCHSAA is going to control what we do.
All right, Steve, all fascinating stuff. If people wanted to get more involved with this before we close out with a radio bit, if people want to get more involved with this, how would they get involved with it? Because obviously you have parents who are involved with high school athletics. You have booster associations, Enlo. My oldest is at Enlo. My youngest is going to go to Enlo. They're fighting all sorts of battles. They need a new field over at Enlo, right? All that kind of stuff. They have a proud basketball program. You see all that kind of stuff. So if you want to get involved with this, how does one get involved with this?
Great question.
Starts with your own kid.
Yeah.
It does start with your kid. Yes,
Yep.
that is true. That is true.
Yep.
Look, if someone wants to email me, steve@refthetriangle.com. I think people should go read the report. I think it's as valid today as it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, we'll put the link in there.
It's a fascinating read. I also think if you want to be supportive of high school athletics, I think first you can do it in your small little universe, which is help improve the sportsmanship issue, but the pay issue and the representation issue can only be done through the NCHSAA. And with that, I might suggest that be supportive of the recommendations that we've made or compel Q Tucker to develop her own strategy to fix this. And with that, you could be in touch with her. I want only good things. I believe in education-based athletics. I believe in the NCHSAA. I believe in officials. I love officials. They're my people.
Yeah.
Right. I think on any level, voicing your concern as a parent or a teacher or an administrator back to the NCHSAA will say, we better take this seriously and get on the game plan if we're going to fix this and preserve this wonderful experience called high school athletics.
So the life coach, for those who have heard us reference the life coach, he's hanging out with us. You have Steve, the basketball official. You got Steve, the life coach. And Steve, whether he realizes or not, does help guide some decisions on this podcast. Oftentimes, Joe and I will break out our bracelet and says, "What would Steve do?"
Yes.
Every so
I keep
often.
mine right here.
Yeah, what would Steve do? And I thought about you the other day. When we hit Real ID Day, right? It was May 6th was Real ID Day, and you have to have that little star on your driver's license to have a real ID. if you want to do certain things.
Yeah.
Right? Because I recently got my license renewed, but I forgot a document, so I just got a normal driver's license. No big deal because I just updated my passport. So I have a card, I have a paper passport, all that kind of stuff. So if I need to fly, I'm good because I got my card, right? And I had what would Reynolds and Company do if it were on the air today for Real ID Day? And I thought, I know what Steve would do. Tell me if I'm wrong. You would find the one person somehow, some way in the last 20 years didn't know, has never traveled, didn't watch the news, hasn't talked to friends. The one person who just that day went, wait, what? Or they go to the airport and you would follow them along to see if they could get through with a Real
That
ID.
would be we would go to the airport.
Go to the airport
and find the one person who was completely disconnected from what's going on in this world. And we probably would have given them something like a Reynolds and Company refrigerator magnet.
T-shirt. No, you have a Reynolds and Company ID with a star on it. See, you're a real fan. See, there you go, a real fan, a real Reynolds and Company fan. It's been 20 years. How do you not know? Because it's going to happen. Because I'll be traveling soon. We've got a national parks trip. We're going to be going to Glacier in July. We're very excited about this. I know there's going to be problems in the line in July when people try to fly without that thing.
I just hope, Steve, in your whoever you consult next, you tell them in the morning, you got to have a segment called Tell Me Something Good and play the song Tell Me Something Good.
Wow.
Because that's never happened on radio before.
Could you do me a favor, Joe? Solely out of friendship. Email that idea to me so I can delete it.
Hey, next time you talk to a sports talk station, this one's free. Maybe they should take phone calls after big events. Just a thought.
I know.
Just a thought. Just a thought. Anyway, Steve, hey man, all great stuff. We'll put that link for the report in the YouTube and podcast summary so you can check it out if you're interested. And hopefully people kind of a little wake up call when it comes to this stuff because this is important.
Got to save it.
Yeah, man.
We've got to save it, and saving it requires leadership, fresh leadership.
It's good catching up. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.
Big thanks to Miller Lending. Check them out online at millerlending.com/theog. You can be like Joe Giglio and get all that money to consolidate the debts and get a much lower rate than those credit cards. You feel good?
I do. Much
Good.
better. Much better.
And here's the thing. If the rates come down, Giglio can just refinance again.
Yep. That's the good part.
No closing costs. You're not worried about some sort of break-even point. So go to millerlending.com/theog. That's our landing page. You're going to get a Raleigh Wine Shop gift basket when you take it to close. Did you get one?
Ooh, of course.
Awesome. I didn't know if that was one of those, well, it's the OG corporate champion, yada. Got that gift basket.
Austin's a man of his word now.
I love that. You can also call them directly at 919-447-3377. Speaking of homes, you might be in the market to buy one. A lot of new construction in the area. You can use Miller Lending to finance that. And again, no closing costs means that you get your house in 6 months. If the rates come down, you can just refinance again and not sweat it. But in the meantime, what you need to do is contact our friends at Hometown Realty, myhdr.com. You can buy and sell with confidence. And they got folks all over the triangle, all over North Carolina to help you out and obviously get you to understand potential incentives from new home builders. So check them out, myhdr.com. Big thanks to Matt Davis at State Farm. Talking about your home, you want to save money, right? On your insurance. Just start the conversation. Maybe you feel like you've got a good rate right now. Something tells me Matt Davis can help you save money. He can get you a better rate at State Farm in Garner. Give him a call, 919-779-8277. So let's see, you refinanced or you used Miller Lending to buy a house through Hometown Realty. You got your insurance. How do you celebrate all these things? With two roosters.
Oh,
that's how you celebrate.
Oh, I could have used a Slavin Sunday yesterday. Let's be honest.
Between the alcohol and a Slavin Sunday, you would have been asleep at the arena still.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. So head up to Roosters to celebrate whatever occasion. Maybe another Canes victory, right?
Oh, yeah.
So go to roosters.com to find out their flavors. And of course, be on the lookout for the podcast flavor here soon.
July, right?
Is it July? Okay. I have to go back and check with Jared on that one. But we will have a podcast flavor very soon.
Peanut buttery.
joining us on the Heister Automotive Group microphone. Here we are.
In person.
In person.
You
Chris,
can always sell your car to the Heister Auto Group. HeisterAuto.com.
Chris Powers from Trophy joining us in studio. Chris, what's up, man? You have not been to the studio yet. Welcome.
No, this is my first time up here. Thanks for having me.
I'm always at your spaces. It's finally time you come to my
I
space.
know, it's nice. You guys actually had more booze in here than at my place.
Would you like some Malort?
Malort?
I got
a little early.
I got an airplane bottle of Malort if you need
Take
it.
a rotor. No, I'm
Yeah,
good
if
right
you
now.
need a roadie, we're good to go on that one. Follow it up with your Underbird, right?
It's the punishment of death.
Yeah.
The Malort.
So we got Getting Piggy With It, May 18th at Maywood, Trophy Maywood.
Mm-hmm.
For those who might not be aware, like people know about the Trophy beer, you got Trophy pizza, but Maywood, if you haven't been back there in a while, like this has now become like a big complex over at Maywood.
Yeah, so we call it like our campus over there. So we can spread out. We have 3 buildings on Maywood that we really can, like we have a huge grassy area behind the buildings. We have a big grassy space under a bunch of old trees next to Maywood Hall and Garden. So there's a lot of room to kind of spread out and spend a solid Saturday afternoon.
So how did you get involved with Getting Piggy With It and using this space for an event like this?
Yeah, so Jake reached out and said, hey man, we're going to do this thing. It's going to be awesome. And I think your space would be perfect for it. And I said, hell yeah, that sounds like something I definitely want to be involved with. I've seen the work that Frankie Lemon does and anything I could do to kind of help out I was all in for. So Jake brings all these chefs to the table and I do my best to coerce all my buddies in beer and spirits to come out there and bring out special stuff.
You're referencing Jake Wood from Lawrence Barbecues helping us out. We had a conversation with him in an earlier podcast and we're just following up here, promoting Getting Piggy With It. So I wanted to focus on the alcohol portion of this.
Let's do it.
We were just a old Trophy pizza. And it's wild from where it started, where you had 5 beers, maybe?
Yeah.
In a tiny space. To now I'm getting THC drinks. My mom's having a margarita. Like it's all over the place now. So you guys are doing all sorts of stuff.
Full day.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. So when you're doing stuff like this for an event like this, what kind of styles are you trying to bring out? You got your core, obviously, but what are you cooking up for this?
We do. So our goal is to kind of all these chefs are bringing in all these really great food, all this really great dishes. So we want to kind of match that. So we're working with our friends at Cook's Mill Bourbon. They're going to be out there slinging some whiskey. We have a whole batch of like small batch whiskeys that Frankie Lemon's kind of had stashed for a while, which they're going to be serving up that day as well. We're going to have some folks from Heaven Hill out there talking about those spirits as well.
Nice.
And I've roped in some of my friends in the beer industry from across the country to send us beers for it. So we'll have beers there from The Vale in Richmond, Virginia. We'll have beers from our friends at Good Word in Duluth, Georgia. We'll have beer from our mutual friend in Denver and some others that are joining the cast. So
it sounds like fun.
It's going to be a solid Sunday afternoon.
You wouldn't survive.
No. I mean, I'm remembering there's fried wings involved, which I'm already.
It's not going to be enough for you, though.
No, you know this.
I know this.
But if there's a chiller drink involved, the appetite does expand.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We haven't done 919 beer is kind of on hiatus right now. 919 Vice is a little bit on hiatus now, but it is in over a decade. It's pretty wild the permutations of the beverage business for you. Where it starts from.
Chris is an OG, man.
I know you've been doing this for a long time, and you guys have. What I've always appreciated about you guys is you're trying to look ahead and not chase a trend, but maybe kind of do something on your own, which leads to all your spaces and the various concepts and things like that. So the part that I'm finding fascinating now is, look, man, I can reference brewed IPA and you'll get a good chuckle.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
But as our mutual friend Whit Baker would point out, the Cannabevs are the hot thing right now. Joe calls them the sippers, those THC
Chillers.
drinks.
Yeah.
You've gotten into that with Starry Eyes, which I commended you. It really is like a spindrift with THC, which is exactly what I was looking for. It's perfect.
Sign me up.
So what eventually got you to that point? And what do you think the future of this stuff is?
Man, so what got us into it was we were looking at kind of how people are drinking.
Yeah.
You see people are walking away from those stunt beers that you'd see everywhere a year and a half, 2 years ago. Your double fudge barley wine and some of those things that are just, to me, sound like an abomination. But like somebody out there is drinking them.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. So our goal was to, how we drank and thinking about how everybody else is going to be drinking too. So lower ABV beers, we're talking about, a brewer, when they're showing off their skills in brewing, is they're going to do something that has very little adjunct to it.
Yeah.
Something that tastes perfect, super clear, and is an expression of their version of historic beers.
Sure.
So
Beer
we're doing
flavored beer.
beer flavored beer. That's right.
Yeah.
So we're doing lower ABV
See,
stuff.
I'm way ahead of the curve.
Man, he's
Beer
on it.
flavored beers on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started this Cannabev idea, this project, because, you know, we're seeing people drinking a lot less beer, and we have people coming into our tap rooms and they're saying, you know, I don't drink beer right now, or I'm taking a break, or
Why do you think that is? Because I was listening to NPR, and they had, you know, your national story on how younger people just aren't drinking as much, and they assign some of that to post-pandemic youths not being as social, and we're of a generation that drinking is a social thing, being around other people and having a good time. The one thing that bothered me in the NPR report was that they didn't bring up weed. They didn't bring up marijuana, THC, legalized THC, Delta 9, Delta 8. And I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be a thing that probably excites you, because if the young people aren't drinking as much, but they might be consuming other things, well, here we go.
Yeah, and we have the option. You can have it in our tap rooms.
Yeah.
So we make 3 different THC beverages. One that's really low, 2.5% milligrams, and it's also balanced with the same in CBD.
Yeah.
Then we have 5 and then a 10. What we're seeing is that people aren't drinking beer, but they still want to be social in our places.
Yes.
They're going to have a THC beverage and then sit back and enjoy it.
It helped with my dad on
2.5.
Yeah.
I had
You're talking my speed.
Yeah, you had the grapefruit. You had the grapefruit on tap. I was like, at 2.5, actually, I can do this and be cool. And it was perfect because my dad was not. I always feel bad for
on a tear.
You know how it is. My dad has.
Talking about foam party.
My dad is going to bring up foam party. You know, you had a beer called Foam Party. That was a real big favorite of mine. Although it's coming back.
It is coming back.
Okay, I'll let my dad know. He'll be excited about that. So I was always curious how you adapted to that, because we're in the same business. We got to adapt to tasting the ways people change and consumption of media and whatnot. So same thing applies with consumption of beverages.
Yeah, for sure. We're seeing it, and we see it in all of our tap rooms and our restaurants. It's very strange how people drink now. I mean, it's different than they were 5 years ago. Yeah, it's not strange.
Yeah.
We also see another weird trend that I've seen is like people love board games, and they've been coming to our places and wanting to play a game.
That is big, yeah.
And I was like, there's young people that work for us. They're like, hey, we should really get this game. I'm like, what? Is that? I'm like, I used to go to bars to meet people or chat or like, you know, have conversations or play a game outside. But like the kids today,
let's throw dice on a table.
Yeah.
Settlers of Catan. Now you're talking about language.
Now we're talking.
The Giant Connect 4 or Giant Jenga cannot go wrong.
No, you can't. You cannot go wrong with that. Anyway, on that note, great pivot point here. Maybe I need the Malort with Julia.
What am I breaking news that people went to bars to get laid?
What? No, get out of town. I think that still happens. I think. So let's go to a bar to raise money, though. Let's do that. That's another thing you can do. So getting Piggy With It, May 18th, Trophy Maywood, 12 to 6. You can find out more at the website.
I got to tell you about the music.
Okay, yes. Tell me about the music.
Yeah, we're going to have 3.
And then I have a favor to ask you.
Okay. So we have 3 great performers that are going to be out there. So we have the singing sheriff from Garner.
The singing sheriff of Garner?
He was on The Voice.
Oh, I'm in.
Mr. Garner over
here.
Why is the first time I'm hearing about this?
Yeah. So our friends from QDR hooked us up with him. He's actually going to be in town, and he's going to come out and perform.
Nice.
We have BJ Barham, which has been a long-term.
Yes.
We've been harassing him for about 3 years to come out to do this, texting him, and the things just worked out with like his schedule and timing.
Just tell him you have an AV card show in NC State's ACC tournament run.
Okay.
And he'll show up.
Yeah.
He'll be good.
He is a huge state fan. That's right. He loves
know.
everything NC State. And then we'll also have Old Habits out there.
Oh, nice.
Those guys. So Lynn Peterson and some of the other boys are getting back together to play.
Yeah, okay.
And QDR is going to be out there talking about their music and their programming and helping us.
Very cool.
Support.
Very, very cool. So again, go to Frankie Lemon Foundation. That's with 2 M's, by the way, .org to find out more. All right, favor before we say goodbye.
Let's hear it.
Can we broker peace between me and the MLB Raleigh guys? I know you just did an MLB Raleigh event. I think you brought me some Play Ball Pilsner, which I actually have a shirt. Okay, so you know I've always been supporting the cause, but I don't know. They seem like they've got some issues with me. So can we like broker a peace?
Yeah, we'll meet it in a neutral location.
Can we just do it in the brew?
Yeah.
Can we just do it in the back room?
Hawking, Don.
Yeah. You just do it in the back room at Trophy Maywood. I mean, I know you have the space there. We just do some peace talks.
We'll meet in the barrel room.
Perfect.
Come up with a list of demands on both sides.
Okay.
We'll meet in the middle. See what happens.
And maybe we'll be allowed to show up at the next MLB Raleigh event.
Yeah. I'll pour everybody some starry eyes and see what happens. Right?
Then we'll chase it with Malort. Good times. Hey, Chris, good catching up, man.
Yes, thank you guys for having
everybody
us.
go check out Getting Piggy With It, May 18th from 12 to 6. Supports a great cause, and you're gonna leave full and a little inebriated, which is always good. But get home safe. That's what matters the most. That's right. Big thanks to the Butcher's Market. They bring you OG Live, which will hit tomorrow at 2 o'clock. They bring you the mailbag as well. But they're also going to bring you prepared meals. They're going to bring you marinated meats already ready to go in the to-go case. You can go in and out and not worry about it. But if you got questions, you need a specific cut, they can help you out as well. It is the Butcher's Market. So go check them out at thebutchersmarkets.com.
Today is the right day for a steak and cheese for lunch.
You could probably use one.
Yes.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Big thanks to Roback. Check them out online, roback.com. Use that promo code OG20 to save 20% off
prize there.
Got, I think they were running low on this bad boy. The short sleeve AV cart polo.
Yes.
I had to have this one.
It's a good one.
I got to make sure I got my fits for the next ACC tournament, wherever that might be, wherever that might be. So it goes beyond polos, by the way. There's shorts to go work out. Their jogger pants, all that stuff. It's all fantastic. The hoodies are great too. And you can get 20% off your order right now when you go to roback.com. Big thanks to Keller Williams, commercial real estate. The Donnelly team, Brian and Julie, they're going to help you find warehouse space, retail space. Whatever your commercial real estate needs are, Brian and Julie are going to help you out. So contact them today. Call them at 919-616-8681 or trianglenccommercial.com. The Donnelly team, they got the expertise. They know Raleigh well. You got specific needs. They're going to be able to handle it, but it starts with a phone call. 919-616-8681. All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe. You got a Hey Joe? You got a Hey Joe question for me? You told me?
I do. Hey Joe, with Pete Rose posthumously now being eligible for the Hall of Fame, what are your top 4 radio topics in your 20-plus year career that you've spent the most amount of time on?
Oh, jeez.
Because I gotta believe that Pete Rose is on that list, especially in the Adam days.
Yeah. I saw the alert that Rob Manfred, commissioner of Major League Baseball, reinstated Pete Rose and others posthumously, and at least gives them Hall of Fame consideration. I mean, the voters still got to put him in.
Yeah, but
the voters still got to put him in.
Okay, I thought maybe that would be like one of those committee things that they would just put them both in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like he's off the banned list.
Yeah,
cool. But that also now means that which was, by the way, a policy that the Hall of Fame didn't have to follow through with. He was
right.
He was permanently banned from baseball, from Major League Baseball.
Right.
And the Hall of Fame, because they're cowards, said, we're going to follow suit and we're going to make him ineligible for the Hall of Fame as well. Now that he's dead, I was like, well, what more? He served his time or whatever it is. Who's to say the ghost of Pete Rose doesn't still have?
It was a lifetime ban, so
lifetime's over, right?
Yeah.
What is on my Mount Rushmore? My top 4 of topics discussed. Yeah, Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame would easily be on there. I would also say
the Hurricanes are going to be sold and moved.
No. I would say speaking of moved, realignment.
Yeah, conference
realignment.
Okay.
I mean, that was an evergreen in the summer because we always had something.
Yeah.
And I would expand that.
You had a lot to get into.
I did. That I would expand it into not just college realignment, but like everybody's pet project on a college football playoff, right? So all that was jumbled together. The super leagues, like that whole topic, yeah, that would be on there. Replay,
yeah,
should expand replay, get rid of replay. Does this sport need a replay? That kind of stuff. That would be number 3.
Officiating,
I would put that into the replay category.
Okay,
officiating, replay, that kind of stuff. Number 4?
Oh, the nonsense Carolina investigation, the junk.
Yeah.
Because it just lasted so long.
It lasted so long. It's in there, but I do think it ties into what I think would be number 4. And that would be NC State.
Okay. Because NC State would be the one that wanted to talk about.
Right. Yeah. They want, but also it's just NC State in the sense that the know your role thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
People were like, we used to run basketball. You don't run basketball anymore. Like we're gonna be a football school. And it turns out, no, like that sort of stuff. It's that maybe it's a State Carolina conversation, the dynamics of State Carolina.
Yeah.
That would be number 4. I would say that's number 4. All right, let's get into the OG Sports Phone, shall we?
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports Phone and curse or don't.
Of course, the OG Sports Phone brought to you by Nature's Relief. Joe's not on Nature's Relief right now. He's just a little tired from last night. A little tired.
Yeah. I mean, I need like a smoothie or something.
You can go to Happy and Hale.
Yeah. I need something.
I mean, we're about to take a hockey break because most of our sports phone calls are about the Canes.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
Would get on the app right now, Joe.
Yeah.
Order
Almond Brothers.
An Almond Brothers. Pick it up. Drink it on your way home before you crash.
Mm-hmm.
On the couch.
Good call.
Yeah. Very good call. God, you're useless today.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember, we weren't going to have a show today. Originally.
No, we were. It was going to be the parts that we already aired.
Oh.
I was just going to work around it.
Oh, okay.
That was the plan for today. You ain't young, Joe.
No.
You ain't young like you used to be.
No.
Look,
I ain't as good as I once was.
All I know is that
I will tell you that.
All I know is that you need to rest as much as possible for the after dark tomorrow. All right, let's go to a 252.
What's up, boys? It's Josh from Charlottesville. Just got to the big Virginia energy from Tuesday's pod, and holy shit, is that not the truth? Anyway, also, Charlottesville being the home of Roback, they're having a warehouse sale this weekend. Didn't know if you guys wanted me to pick anything up. It's going to be 75% off. I can ship it down there. You know what I mean? Go Canes. Don't go UVA, and have a great day. Bye.
Yeah, my Carolina Hurricanes discourse is similar to Tony Bennett era Virginia basketball discourse. Was so spot on, I scared myself.
It was good.
So spot on. All right, let's go to a 919.
Hey guys, it's Kyle from Durham. Just listened to the episode today where you talked about how the Caps fan complained about that he is not going to make the Canes his second favorite team because of how they treated the Capitals when they came to town. And I think you guys are completely off, totally wrong. And it's just a bad take. And because of that and your terrible opinions, NC State is not going to be my second favorite team in the Triangle. I refuse to let it happen. I'm going to go post about it on some message boards. And I'm sorry to say that NC State has lost my second favorite fandom. Goodbye.
That was good. Not going to lie. You had me in the first half on that one. Not going to lie. Bringing up like NC State is not going to be my second favorite team does bring in something else about that whole Reddit thread that if you missed yesterday, some guy went on Reddit, a Caps fan saying, you could have been my second favorite team, but you lost me because somebody was dry humping my chair.
No, cheaters never win.
And cheaters never. That was the real thing. You're encouraging that they're not cheaters. They're just,
it's part of the game.
Part of the game, idiots. Last time I checked, the Canes and the Caps are like rivals, right?
I think so, yeah.
So that in a way, it is kind of like saying, well, I'm Carolina. You would be my second favorite team, but
I like both Duke and Carolina.
Who says that?
Yeah,
who says that? All right, to a 919.
Hey, Joes. So over some of the last few episodes, I've heard y'all reminding Canes fans not to get too mad at Rantanen. Remind him it's not a Hollis situation and don't demonize him. And I get that. I generally think it's better that it's better when workers have control of their destiny in the workplace. I think it's good that Rantanen had control of his career and got to go to a place where he wanted to go. In the most objective sense, I'm happy for him. And I think most Canes fans, if you talk to them and got them to take their fan dumb out of it, they would be totally understanding and happy about it too, or fine with it too. But I'm still going to be mad, and I still think Canes fans should be mad. Because It's sports. It's inherently tribal. He saw my fucking home and was like, nah, I don't want to be here. So you know what? Fuck you. I totally get it. You have a right to do it, but I got a right to be like, fuck you. And I hope the Hurricanes are watching Rantanen go off the way he's doing, and TNT and ESPN tell all these stories of what a fucking hero he is, and had to overcome the mental anguish of being wanted by 3 teams. You know, I hope they're watching that like Michael Jordan and taking that shit fucking personally. I hope Sebastian Aho's watching that shit and seeing him and every hat trick he scores, and Aho's like, fuck you, here comes a hat trick of hat tricks. Okay? So, totally happy for the guy as a person that he found himself in a good situation. But as a Canes fan, fuck you, go Canes.
Curse. Or don't. I love that. I love that. A little bit of news. Saw this on the socials from Ryan Henkel. Nikishin skating with Orlov currently. Is it about to happen, Joe?
In practice?
Are we about to unleash the beast in DC? Don't roll your eyes.
Oh boy.
Nikishin is the Stanley Cup.
Oh boy.
Let's go. Yeah, maybe not. We'll see what happens. But he keeps skating. Getting closer and closer. All right, to us.
I mean, he's not hurt, so like, why wouldn't he skate?
What? Don't yuck my yum.
Oh.
Fellas, morning. Just rewatching the highlights from last night's game. Awesome win for the Canes, but same thing I felt at the time is echoing true and echoing a lot clearer right now, just watching the first period highlights. The Caps dominated that. Same thing in game 3. Up until that goal, up until the Gostisbehere goal last night, the Canes were getting looks, but the Caps were getting one-on-ones, one-on-nones, ripping shots off the crossbar in the first minute. Like, hockey's a dumb game. If you play better than the other team, you don't always win. But that's 2 games in a row where I genuinely believe that something was in the air that was on the Canes side. I mean, maybe it's home ice advantage, but the Caps deserved at least 1 or 2 before the 10-minute mark of the first period last night, and I felt like in game 3 as well. So, hey, if it's luck, I'll take it. Sure, it seemed lucky when that stick got stuck in the boards for the Canes to go up 4-2 after the 5-on-3 goal, but man, the Caps are not – I mean, it's a 3-1 series lead, but I don't think the Caps are out of this. All it's going to take is for them to put a couple of these over the shoulder, and we're going to be looking at 3-2, possibly 3-3 in the series. So I'm not calling it yet. Go Canes.
I mean, I don't disagree with the overall premise of the call in that the Canes are fortunate at times to be up 3-1. And yes, in hockey, there's always an element of luck, puck luck. This is not something that is new. Rod Brindamore will talk about it. But I also think it's slightly diminishing Freddie Anderson's play, right? Because he's also made some pretty big saves that the team will feed off of. And I know we've had a lot of discourse around Pyotr Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson and fragility and everything else. I mean, in the time being, where in years past, I've been like, are you sure you want to ride Freddie? This year, I'm not. You notice I'm not questioning it this year.
Yeah.
I'm just not questioning it this year. And Rod seems to be handling this one the way that he should. So while I get the premise, I also think it's kind of diminishing the overall nature of play from the Carolina Hurricanes. But that OG Sports Phone listener is correct in that there is luck in any championship. All right, one more Canes Sports Phone call.
Good morning, guys. It's Tuesday morning after Game 4 on a pretty gross rainy Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, last night was pretty much the epitome of Canes hockey is what it felt like. It felt like no matter how much momentum Washington got at times, Carolina consistently had an answer. And so that seems to be, it's part of the DNA of a rubber and more team. But also all the guys who are suiting up. I will say, I don't have a ton of comments on the game. I think it speaks for itself. I think the major concern that I'm noticing, and that I'm sure a lot of the fan base is, Aho has been completely invisible this series. And I don't know if maybe I'm just being pessimistic, and I haven't been there in person, so I'm watching on TV. He hasn't made 1 ounce of impact. It feels like, even besides not being really. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts on that. Also, I'd like to hear if you have any updates, Chatfield. I'd be curious to see what you guys think of who would step in to fill a spot, whether it be Morrow or Nikishin. I'm assuming it'd be Nikishin because he took warm-ups with the team last night. But thanks for all y'all do. Go Canes.
Well, as it relates to Nikishin, the one thing that we always have to remind ourselves is the shot, right? So if Chatfield can't go, Chatfield's a righty. So Nikishin's a lefty. Those things kind of factor into how you go about this, whereas Morrow is a righty.
Well, you already know my theory on this. He has to play with Orlov because he needs someone he can communicate.
Which gets back to the Henkel tweet about who he was skating with today.
So well, it just so happens to be Chatfield plays with Orlov.
Yes.
And Chatfield's the one who's injured, not injured, whatever, banged up for sure.
Yeah. I get that part too. Now, as far as Aho is concerned, I'm not going to get too wrapped up into the ebbs and flows of who's quiet, who's not quiet within a series. I think he's played okay. I mean, they don't get out of the Jersey series without Aho's play, right? So if then it gets back to the Canes' depth too. They can survive Aho being relatively quiet in terms of the score sheet. Whereas we know with the Washington Capitals, they're not getting anywhere if Ovechkin's quiet, if Tom Wilson's quiet. Other guys can step up for the Carolina Hurricanes because, again, that depth is a feature. All right, some YouTube comments before we get out of here from Glitch Perception. Gensel, was it Jake or Chris? Jake Gensel did want to be here. That's fine. He did. We've discussed why he ended up not being here. From Jess, let's go Canes, but I'm also frustrated watching the national media who were 2/3 on the Caps side going into the series and has decided, well, the Canes just haven't had to play good teams. The Caps are just frauds. Surely can't be because the Canes are good. Nah, can't do that now, can we? That's fine. Let the narrative continue to be the narrative. Kind of gets back to my Dave Dorn thing. Just got to be back here chilling. Keep talking about Duke. It's all good. Ask him about Manny. Don't ask him about me. Even though there's a picture of me with him behind Giglio. Don't need to talk about that. I don't want to talk about my relationship. Let him think that. Anyway, Giglio's going to go to bed. We'll see you tomorrow for an OG Live.